Hello everyone, and to my friend Luis Siqueira, who couldn't be here in person today. It's a real honor to be here at SRECon Americas 2026. This is my first time presenting at an international conference, so thank you for being part of a special moment for me. So please be kind. I promise the failures I show today are not from this presentation. Quick question before we start. How many of you operate systems where failure really have customer impact? That's exactly the environment this story comes from. My name is Leonardo. I'm the head of SRE at Bradesco Bank. Over the last 2 years, my team built and scaled a chaos engineering framework in an environment where failures really matter. Financial transactions, instant payments, and data from millions of customers. Today, I'll share that journey with you, from human-driven chaos experiments to production automation. To set the context, let me briefly introduce Bradesco. Bradesco is one of the largest private banks in Brazil and Latin America. We serve more than 7 million customers and process tens of thousands of transactions per second, 24 hours a day. We operate in a highly regulated environment and run a hybrid infrastructure, while actively moving to the cloud. So this is our reality. When something fails, it directly impacts real people and their daily lives. Before we dive into our journey, let's align on the concept. Chaos engineering is the practice of running control experiments to understand how systems behave under failure, before those failures reach customers in production. It's not about to break things randomly. It's a discipline, a scientific approach to building reliable systems. When traditional tests ask, does it work? Chaos engineering asks, what happens when it doesn't? In a financial system like Bradesco, failure is not a question of if, it is a question of when. This feedback loop, from steady stage to learning, became the reference for our entire journey. And it led us with a simple lesson from the SRE book. Hope is not a strategy. So, why did Bradesco need chaos? The short answer is simple. We are migrating critical workloads to the cloud and could not afford to discover weaknesses in production. Modernization demands resilience before migration. We were building a cloud-native platform based on microservices running on Kubernetes, supporting critical journeys like Pix payments, transfers, transaction authorization, and our virtual assistant BIA. These services depend on a complex ecosystem, Redis, Kafka, SQL, and external APIs. And the real issue was not the technology, it was confidence. Our on-premise systems had been hardened over decades, but the cloud architecture was still new. We didn't really know how these new systems would behave under failure. Resilience tests depended on a small SRE team and took days to execute. This was a cloud problem. It was a resilience problem. Well, we didn't start from scratch. We started by building a clear, repeatable way to validate resilience, the same way across the whole small SRE team. First, we made sure we truly understood how the system worked end-to-end. And when I say end-to-end, I don't mean just diagrams. We mapped the critical user journeys and asked a few hard questions. Where could the system degrade? Where would it fail hard? And which dependencies would quietly hurt us under stress? Take Work gave us scenarios that really make a difference. But running them still depend on people. It took time, alignment, and manual effort, which means we couldn't validate many scenarios in the same time. And even basic recovery and evidence gathering weren't trivial. It worked as a foundation. It helped us learning, but it didn't scale. How many of you have learned about resilience only after something broke? That's exactly what we want to change. With the framework defined, we move to execution. We transformed that model in a set of chaos scenarios organized by domains: infrastructure, communication network, application microservices, media, and database. These scenarios were defined using architecture analysis and the critical dependencies mapping across all digital platforms. They gave us structured coverage across all layers and quickly review behavior we didn't expect. Even with a manual and limited framework, the first experiments revealed real problems that never appeared in traditional testing. What is interesting is that none of these are uncommon problems. Redis was just a cache. It had become states. Connection pools waited far too long under failure. Missing retries and circuit breaks allow failure to cascade. And DNS behaved different across replicas. And this is where assumptions met reality. From the development team perspective, the system was working, but these experiments showed us how it actually behaved under stress, and how failure spread across dependencies. Everything worked while the environment was healthy, but the system didn't know how to fail probably. That's when the value became undeniable. But it's also clear that this execution model wouldn't scale. To go further, we needed scale, automation, and governance. Now, how do we scale reliability framework if without scale the small SRE team? We had to prove the value of scenarios and these experiments. The question was no longer how to execute it, but how to operate resilience at scale. Now, we need to turn into a platform, a capability, not a team effort. We redesigned the next version of the framework around one goal: make chaos safe and repeatable for everyone. We base the future in 3 pillars. First, declarative orchestration, with scenarios as code. All versioned and reusable, with flexible inputs. The second, building governance, approvals, traceability, and automatic rollbacks. All of this embedded by design. Integrated observability, automatic correlation between experiments and system behavior, evidences, not manual analysis. This is what transformed chaos from a set of experiments into a scalable system. After the first phase, we were no longer dealing with isolated findings. What's interesting is that we already knew most of these failures. They had happened before. They were documented, and the teams had already fixed them at least once. So the problem was discovered. The problem was where that learn lived. In the people reads, in postmortem, and in one-on fixes. So we went back to the most critical incidents from the past 2 years, and we looked at them differently. Not just what failed, but how the system behavior under stress. And what behavior should be able to rely on the next time. Each critical incident became a hypothesis, not a guess, a clear expectation about system behavior. To do at scale, tooling, To do at scale, tooling became an important choice. The single tool could reproduce everything we had seen. Some failures were Kubernetes native. Others were network level. Others lived in managed services outside the cluster. So, we deliberately combined tools. Each one chose to reproduce a specific type of failure. If out, change application code, and if doubt, compromising production safety. And this is what automation really gave us. No more experiments, but the ability to say, this behavior had failed before, and we can now validate it again, safely and whenever we need it. Automation gives us repeatability. Observability gave us evidence. Together, they turned resilience learning into a scalable, reliable capability. This is where the framework truly became a capability. Instead of the SRE run experiments, we built a platform that allowed engineers to validate resilience safely. An engineer can select any service, define the load will be tested, and choose the scenario. All of this is planned, scheduled to run within the safety window for validation. What really matters is what happened after the execution. Our evidence is automatically collected and centralized. Metrics, runtime behavior, and service logging are already correlated. Engineering can quickly understand deviations and validate how the system actually behaved. If out, manual investigation. Chaos stopped being an SRE-driven task and became a self-service learning capability. Governed, repeatable, and safe by design. Now, with the platform in place, the next challenge was people. We asked ourselves a simple question. If the system is ready, are the teams ready? That's when we introduced the game days. Game days are realistic failure simulations. Failures are injected if out prior notice, and the teams respond exactly as they would in production. The goal wasn't to surprise people. It was building confidence through experiences. Just to put the points behind this, we run game days with over 300 participants across 5 teams. We injected 10 realistic failure scenarios, and the teams independently identify 54% of them. But the real benefit was just find issues. Teams go faster and recognize signals. coordinate and communication under pressure. That's what made the production experiments safer later. The system wasn't the only thing getting resilient. That's when we knew this wasn't just a framework anymore. It was a capability people could actually use under pressure. The big change wasn't technical. It was operational and cultural. We didn't just build resilient systems. Now, we build resilient teams. The best part, running chaos in production is not a technical milestone. It's a maturity milestone, especially in a bank, with real customers and real transactions. This was never about being brave. It was about preparation. Every scenario was validated in staging. Rollbacks were tested. Observability was mandatory. Experiments run if approves, and strictly defined blast radius. With that foundation in place, we were ready to move from the framework to reality. Let me show you 2 real production cases. I will start with a very common assumption. You run 2 OpenShift clusters in active-active mode, fronted by application gateway. The expectation was simple. If one cluster becomes unavailable, traffic shifts, the customers don't notice. From a route perspective, that actually worked. The application gateway detect the health backend and initiate the failover. What didn't fully account for was the time. Health checks were configured with a 50-second timeout. During that window, traffic could still be routed to a degree backend. At the same time, in-flight TCP sessions were terminated, and the application lacked the proper reconnection logic. So, availability was the issue. Recovery behavior was. We reduced the health checks timeouts, adds retry with exponential backoff, and documented the real recovery time will be served. The key takeaway, resilience is not binary. Timeout and retries define what users actually experience. This case taught us something subtle. Active isn't enough. You can meet availability and still hurt the user experience. Failover speed and session behavior are part of the SLO in practice. That's why timeouts and retries stopped being turning knobs and became design requirements. The second experiment tests the system at a much larger scope. We simulated the complex loss of connectivity between our on-premises data centers and major cloud services, while internet traffic to the application remained available. The real question was whether something would fail. It was how customer journeys would behave under that condition. Some behaviors met our expectations. The read-only journeys continued to work thanks to the cache at the BFF layer. Write-heavy journeys failed immediately, which was expected. What surprised us was the user experience. From the customer perspective, everything looked fine at first. They were logged in, the app was responsive, until they tried to do something and enough worked. The system appeared healthy, but the experience was broken. That changed how we think about resilience. From that point, the grid mode stopped being implicit for users. We made them explicit and predictable for customer point of view. Because for a user, unclear degradation is worse than a clean failure. This is the real trap. Systems can be partly corrected and still completely break user trust. That's when you start threatening degree modes at first-class user journeys, not operation exceptions. Now, after all these experiments, we start looking at the system from different perspectives. Not just whether it failed, but how it failed, how fast we detected, how predictable recovery really was. From that perspective, three things became very clear. First, detection got faster. We reduced the time between failure and the owner's failure blind spots and the clear signals. The second, recovery became predictable. Not just faster, but measurable and repeatable. And third, fewer surprise reactive customers. Failures still happened, but they were clear, contained, and easier to explain. Technically, we didn't just run chaos. We uncovered blind spots that traditional testing never revealed, and turned them into concrete architectural improvements. But the most important result was a metric. Teams start asking different questions before taking code to production. What happens if Redis goes down? Did you test the circuit break? What is the degree mode for this journey? That's when we realized something fundamental had changed. Resilience had moved from remediation to design. These numbers aren't the goal. They are simply the evidence of a shift from reactive to the systematic reliability. Faster detection, more predictable recovery, fewer surprises reaching customers. The metric shows the outcome. The behavior change is the real win. Let's go. Trade-offs, lessons, and what really changed. Before closing, I wanted to be honest about what was hard and what we still haven't solved. This journey wasn't smooth and wasn't fast. Adoption took longer than we expected. Building a framework didn't mean teams would use it. Trust had to be earned by showing value early, not by enforced process. Staging helped you reduce risk, but never remove uncertainty. Some behaviors only appear in production, and that's a reality you have to design for. Governance adds frictions, approve, changes, preparation time. That friction wasn't a flaw. In a critical, regulated environment, it was made production experiments possible. The real outcome, but the most important result, was technical. Chaos engineering did become a tool when run. It became a question team asks. Does this work? But how will this fail, and are we ready for it? We moved from reactive to incidents, to design for failure before customer feel it. What I would leave you with, you don't need a platform to start. iScript already reviews real problems. Use your architecture as a map. Your failure boundaries are already there. Observability isn't optional. If without evidence, there is no learning. And the governance isn't the enemy. In critical systems, its stake make chaos safe. The real shift happens when the question changes. Does your system work? To how does our system fail? And what is your user experience? Wow. Thank you so much for being here and for your attention. I would like to continue the conversation, share experience, or just grab a coffee. Please come find me sometime during the conference, and I would really love to hear how you are approach resilience in your systems. Time Bradesco, juntos somos imbatíveis.